What if the biggest mystery of all is hiding in plain sight, not in space, not in atomic physics, but right here, in how we think, in how we speak, in how we choose? I want to share something nobody is saying, but everyone could understand. I discovered something strange. One idea led me to another, and then another, until they began to connect. This something I want to share, I call Victruth, which more than a single idea is a whole framework, and helpful answering questions I wasn't even asking. I tried writing this down, and nobody got it. I thought of sharing it academically, but I am an outsider, so I did things my way and explained it simply through this video instead. I'm not asking you to believe, just follow the logic and see where it leads. These ideas began with a simple question. What does it mean to be a good person? Religion? Culture? The usual answers didn't hold up. I ended up reading about virtue ethics, which says that there are 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, justice, temperance, and courage. And I asked myself, what if the meaning of those virtues has been lost over time? I thought one should first try to understand what they meant by these 4 virtues, then finding if they provide a good framework. That is what I called the theory of virtue. I rebuilt virtue ethics from scratch, logically, replacing each virtue by placeholders, from which I proposed a logical foundation for each virtue, so that together they could explain human behavior, as well as why these 4 virtues are together useful, and then applying these tools and ideas to understand linguistics and its mystery. Listen carefully, for everything I say is a lie until you understand. Each placeholder virtue starts from logic, not tradition. Ceti is the first. It's rooted in what happens before any belief, pure reason. But I first need you to understand a new idea. Mu theory, a theory of metaphysics as well as a theory of choice within cognitive psychology. Let me explain through how we make decisions. People say we see the world in black and white, but I disagree. That is not how it works. Here, I need to distinguish with my own terminology. Imagine a newborn baby. No concepts, no judgment, no preferences, no idea what colors, shapes, sounds, or feelings mean. That is a state of perfect indifference. I call it mu. But intelligence kicks in. We start to expect, predict, and want. That indifference turns into chaos. Ka, a state of indecision. Then comes experience. With it, pleasure will teach us to seek. See. And pain will teach us to avoid. No. So, we go from mu to ka, then to know and see. This is the fundamental 4-dimensional structure behind how we choose. It is not just yes or no. We forget about indifferent and undecided. This mu tetrachotomy shows often in semantic quartets in all languages. Not to like, to love, to dislike, to like. Not happen, to plan, to mishap, to happen, to mute, to joke, to misspeak, to speak. Many times we must choose within those dimensions, and Ceti is the capacity to navigate these wisely, to make the best possible choice with the understanding you have at the moment. That is why they called this wisdom, pure reason, before belief. For the next virtue, which I call Fati, we will need to understand my idea of situational logic. Let me here explain. Remember that we have 4 choice types. Let's say that choices are always dependent on situation types. Then there will be mu situations, ka situations, si situations, no situations. Along with mu choices, ka choices, si choices, no choices, which creates combinations in a 4x4 table mapping how situations and choices interact. This is an if A and B, then C pattern, which we can see in what I call a situational table. In this way, we all learn to see life through patterns, through conditioning. As we learn from past experiences, personal or investigation, as inputs, we build beliefs based on our past, guiding our choices. We do not always make the best choices, because we are biased to repeat choices where we found success or avoid choices where we failed, regardless of the type of situation. What matters is our capacity to replicate good outcomes based on prior experience. Then, this capacity to systematize our past experiences can be expressed as understanding the past free of wrong judgments. We may fail due to fear, lack of imagination, or cautiousness. Thus, this skill is not just about memory and computation, but also about being thoughtful, innovative, and curious before choosing for each situation. Then we can suggest a definition for FATI as the ability to make the best choice on past observations. This type of thinking in probabilities is close to Bayesian thinking, basing choices on previous experience. Thus, this is justice because without all the facts, who are we to judge? That is my definition of justice. Now let's explore the third idea, calibration systems. This one leads us to the third virtue, which I call bully. Let's say you've made a good decision, maybe from logic, maybe from experience, maybe even by luck. It worked for that situation. But then circumstances change, time changes, location changes, meaning changes, mood changes. Suddenly, your decision is no longer optimal. For example, you find the perfect job. It fits your skills, your goals, everything. But the company changes, or you change. Now you're in new territory and your old model fails. But we have ability to project prior knowledge into unknown situations, to calibrate decision-making by blending past concepts with future expectations. We form habits, culture, and preferences. We rehearse the future mentally, over and over, until it feels aligned in our mind. Like a cook, a surfer, or an artist, you begin to sense your creation before it exists. This anticipation of harmony creates what I call calibration systems. But then, when we're out of harmony, we encounter our most basic emotions: ideas, knowledge, anticipation, and concern, which we need to calibrate together with the new circumstances. We can represent these emotional changes using situational matrices to show how decisions shift when circumstances change. In our table, we can interpret our basic meanings: essence, object, circumstance, and purpose, versus the basic locational references: in, to, from, and with. The central axis, here showing whales, represent Chetty, Fatty, Bully, and Rocky, the ideal mental estates or virtues. Then the individual could be out harmony when it deviates from these ideal estates. Below the axis, I use fish to represent our inner comfort zones, our internal personality, while above the axis, birds represent where the mind performs best, our outer personality. Bully is defined by how we apply our experience to new situations. Let me show you here with one example, where there's emotional out of balance. With low external Bully and Rocky forming a Doobie external personality, and with low internal Fatty and Rocky to form a Gishi internal personality. This individual would have then tendencies towards this type of thinking, and would need to complement this imbalance through other individuals. This is compatible with other classification systems for personalities. For example, the Big Five personality traits where openness reminds me of Fatty, conscientiousness of Rocky, extroversion of Chetty, and agreeableness of Bully, while neuroticism I interpret as a lack of balance between them. Or another example being the Myers-Briggs type indicator in which Chetty is extroversion and introversion, Fatty sensation and intuition, Bully thinking and feeling, and Rocky judging and perceiving. Emotions are anticipations of outcomes. When we say, "this feels right," it's our emotional system forecasting. But emotional reasoning isn't always true and can be misleading. Feeling bad about something doesn't make it wrong. That's the emotional fallacy, assuming feelings always reflect truth. And so, Bully can be seen as the ability to make the best choice from future harmony. Keeping harmony through self-restraint, that is why it has been known as temperance. But what exactly is that harmony? The next theory helps us find out. We learn first by thinking, then by experience, then by applying that experience to new situations. Over time, it becomes a different kind of knowledge. Our habits, preferences, common sense, and culture. They shape how we judge, what we see as good, bad, uncertain, or simple noise. Even before we know, some of these ideas are personal, but others are shared with others, like families, nations, and ecosystems, folklore, myths, and religions, or alphabets and languages. All of them bring innovations to their users. These groups form systems because their members interact, exchanging waves of innovation. They transmit knowledge on how to act from each other. They evolve exploring new innovations to create diversity through each other. They compete for attention across time, creating a diverse system through negative frequency-dependent selection. These are what I call swarmetic systems. Individual religions, myths, tales, languages, nations, ideologies can be understood as swarmetic entities. This does not apply to all members of a swarmetic system, but to those with the capacity to learn from changes of the system. Swarmetic entities replicate clusters of innovation. As they transmit knowledge, they become self-replicating themselves. They survive or die, succeed or fail because of these innovations. They self-correct and evolve, benefiting their systems, and by becoming relatively more competitive members of that system. Now, imagine over time, useful innovations help their users succeed. Bad innovations lead to failure. Each swarmetic entity is accepted, rejected, doubted, or reimagined by users. As they compete, the user of most useful swarmetic entities benefits more, while others benefit less. Yet we tend to imitate habits or idiosyncrasies of those successful. Swarmetics suggests that surviving ideas often signal the most useful innovations. Therefore, more useful innovations would be expected to be passed on more often. Even cultures echo mu patterns, car patterns, C patterns, and no patterns. Some ideas are quaint, others uncertain. Some empowering, some destructive. But swarmetic entities do not choose their innovations. Instead, the cultures that survive are those that spontaneously align with effective changes. Success is often accidental and quickly imitated. History shows these self-correcting trends. Language enabled collaboration. Religions unified beliefs. Philosophy gave rise to science. Ideologies shaped societies. So Rocky can be seen as the ability to make the best choice with continuous innovation, learning through failure, navigating the unknown. That's why this virtue has been named as courage. Now, let's explore these 4 virtues together and how they work as a process for our acquisition of knowledge. For this, I use what I call the ages of knowledge, a theory of how cognitive personality shapes us in phases over our life. First, the age of creativity. We are born as logical learners. Because neuroplasticity is at its highest, we can interpret sensations, record them as memory, and build knowledge. As children, we use creativity to interpret the unknown. Then, the age of exploration. As we grow, understanding gets buried under beliefs. Neuroplasticity is reduced. Belief is when we act without questioning, when repetition replaces reflection. We shift from discovery to repetition. Teenagers absorb culture, repeating rather than understanding. Creativity fades as imitation takes its place. Then, the age of correction, often arriving too late, when energy is gone and regrets remain. Most never reach it fully. They act without correcting. Next comes the age of calibration. As we grow old, we face the consequences. Over time, we learn that every action has a reaction. Let's explore now how these ages of knowledge affect our external personalities. The first personality is always a doobie because it evolves between the high bully of a creative child and a high fatty of curious teen. This personality resembles the classic stereotype of a scientist, thinker, or geek. Then there's a period of declining bully towards the teenage years. When Rocky becomes strong with Chetty, we would observe a poddy personality, stereotypically a trader or mathematician. When Fatty is strong, personality is likely to be type Mackie, evoking the stereotype of a soldier, athlete, or engineer. When Bully is strong, personality is expected to be Siri, associated with the artist, architect, or creative professional. Finally, there could arrive the need for higher bully skills in early adulthood. When Rocky becomes strong with Bully, we would observe a Gotti personality, evoking the stereotype of a lawyer, a police officer, or a judge. When Fatty is strong with Bully, personality is a Habby type, typified by a teacher, caregiver, or gardener. These are the 6 combinations of external personalities. We develop them during early life, and generally they are fixed early in adulthood. They are all useful, but also all incomplete. The result? Wasted lifetimes. Not out of malice, but out of cultural miscalibration. Our culture isn't evil, just unintentional. It didn't arise by design. It evolved from countless unexamined corrections. To fix this at the individual level, we have good habits, common sense, reflexes, instincts, and intuition. At the group level, we have good culture, dynamics, rules. And now we can finally complete the theory of virtue, helping us understanding present, past, future, and continuous type of thinking. Chetty as the ability to the best choose in the present, Fatty of past facts, Bully from thinking about future harmony, and Rocky with continuous innovations. It is not something entirely new, as the concept of self-reinforcing loops is known from computer science to mathematics and military tactics. Now, you also know is related to virtue ethics thanks to the theory of virtue. Thus, the theory of virtue proves how to understand ethics using only logical reasoning. We shall remember to challenge like an innocent child, explore like a curious teen, seek harmony like in your old days, and correct with the energy of your prime time. And by demonstrating these 4 cognitive skills lead to better decision-making, the theory of virtue demonstrates that virtue ethics, understood through this framework, is the only ethical system with a purely logical foundation. We can apply the tools we used in the theory of virtue to understand linguistics. As we discovered from the theory of virtue, habits help us behave better, culture can help build better habits with items such as language, and, using the tools earlier explained, I decided to invent a philosophical language, which I called Babeliro. Here, I give a simplified explanation of its logical grammar, which I perceive to be universal among all languages. The idea is quite simple. Language probably started with very few physical concepts, for example, water. Soon enough, it would need abstract meanings as well. For example, water. Yes, no, Ushidi. And we had the basic human emotions, and then each emotion can be decomposed for type, space, and time references. We can use situational logic from this semantic concepts. We have mu-car-see-no situations, as well as mu-car-see-no choices. We can now mix them semantically and find that they build all connectors. Here, the example connectors for English. For this section, we apply our knowledge of Swarmetic systems to take the connectors we already understand and apply conceptual blending to understand the determiners and pronouns. We can take each of the connectors and expand as much as possible on number, gender, article, pronoun, adverb, adjective, etc. This gives us all personal pronouns, possessive, articles, and so on. Then, we need to remember both situational logic and calibration systems. From this, we will get all prepositions, cases, or equivalents. Although some will not exist in certain languages, they can be expressed with more or less clarity. A situational table between space and space references gives locational prepositions. A situational table between time and space references gives temporal prepositions. A situational table between meaning and space references gives semantical prepositions. Similarly, position and meaning references, as we applied for personality types, would give as the grammatical moods. Linguistic moods and personalities of individuals and groups have a semantic relationship. Whales are equivalent to verbal moods. Birds represent here as English modal verbs. Fish are equivalent to other modal modifiers. Finally, we can take the previous table and then apply to mu, car, see, and no patterns. This will give us the most basic verbal objects or root words, as I show here with examples in English with my best interpretation. But wait, there's more. It came to me as a surprise when I was assessing my philosophical language that the creation myth from the Holy Bible was amazingly easy to translate from Hebrew to Babeliro. There are only few non-abstract words used in it, and I also noticed there were many interesting things. Odd choice of formless and empty, which happened to be mu and no words. Mu, car, see, and no could be symbolized by God, created, light and darkness, respectively. Horizon and sky could be symbolizing the situational tables for connectors. Separating seas, land, plants, and trees can be symbolizing the determiners and pronouns. The reference to determiners and pronouns is clearer because of how plants and trees grow, like some determiners have gender, plural, the numbers themselves, and so on. Sun, moon, stars, and signs could be symbolizing locational, temporal, semantical, and generic prepositions and/or cases. Whales, fish, and birds could be symbolizing the grammatical moods. Wild animals, domestic animals, reptiles, and humans could be symbolizing the basic verbal roots in different forms. Human divine characteristics give also human-only verbs. From all this I deduct that the creation myth must be a riddle or tool about the universal logic of grammar. It is an unexpected confirmation of the 7 ideas I have shared. How and why is not clear. I know it is a riddle about grammar, but do not know what it means. It is probably not knowable at all. This is the mystery. One idea led to another, and then another, until I realized I wasn't just chasing thoughts, I was uncovering a riddle hidden in plain sight. A pattern no one seemed to name, yet one that was everywhere. Academia, bound by silos and wrong incentives, hasn't even begun this debate, so let's start it here. I don't have all the answers, but I believe I'm heading toward the right ones. First, understand, we do not live in a dualistic world through the Mu theory. This is related to critical thinking, deductive reasoning, and quantum superpositions. Situational logic is the conditional extension of Bayesian thinking, or also generative IA as large language models, related to inductive reasoning and pattern recognition. Calibration systems connect with system thinking, conceptual blending, abductive reasoning, string theory, and personality typology. Swarmetics is related to nonlinear systems, memetics, and nuclear dynamics. Together, these ideas form the theory of virtue, a framework that intersects with game theory and complex adaptive systems. It also presents a compelling candidate for a theory of everything in quantum physics, when viewed fractally, could offer insights into the very origins of matter and energy. Then, the Ages of Knowledge uses cybernetics, neuroscience, and cognitive science to explain human development, psychology, and failures. And finally, we apply all this to understand the universal logic of language. Some work is needed in some of these theories, but I believe they are all in the right direction. They provide an alternative framework to understand ethics, human behavior, and more, and take individuals and humanity to the next level. Or at least, I hope this helps. Feel free to share.